Hello, my name is David Morrow, and I'll be doing my presentation on IBD, which is a fairly common autoimmune disease in the United States, and it's been on the rise in some developing countries. So what does IBD stand for? It stands for inflammatory bowel disease and encompasses both Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Basically, the general symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease are pain, inflammation of the gastrointestinal system due to T cells over signaling, causing neutrophils to basically go and attack bacteria that would usually be healthy for us. Also, leaky epithelial cells along the mucosa and submucosa occurs, causing, dysbiosis in the gut. And rectal bleeding can occur as a result of this. Weight loss occurs, abdominal pain, diarrhea. So in Crohn's specifically, if you look at the image to the right, you can see that it affects the ileum, mainly parts of the large intestines, the esophagus, and stomach area. And then if you look at the ulcerative colitis, the mucosal layer of the colon is what gets affected. Lesions can occur in the rectum and in the intestines. So I thought that was a good visual representation. And then some extra intestinal occurrences are eye problems. You can get uveitis if you have IBD. You could get conjunctivitis. Your liver and bile duct can, it can be damaged as a result. And joints, like you can develop arthritis. So there's a lot of things that occur outside of just the inflammation of the gut. So UC affects 2.6 million people in Europe and about 1.2 million people in North America. And the image to the right of all the arrows shows how common each autoimmune disease is. Lupus is about the most common. It's about 1.5 million people are affected by it. And then shortly beneath that is Crohn's disease and colitis, which is about 1.4 million people. So as you can see, these autoimmune diseases are pretty big and vast. They're in the millions. Type 1 diabetes has 1 million, rheumatoid arthritis has 1.3 million. So it's really important to find the proper treatment so that people who have dysregulated autoimmune systems can live a healthy, normal life. UC, or ulcerative colitis, has a bias towards adolescents as well as people living in urban communities, which is a result of changing environmental factors. So air quality, things like that, lifestyle as a result of a fast-paced living in the city type of thing can be stressful, and stress is known to induce irritable bowel disease. It occurs in men and women about equally. I know a lot of autoimmune diseases are geared more towards affecting women disproportionately, but with this one, it's about a 50-50 between men and women getting affected. And it also occurs in the elderly, specifically my grandfather. I know he has it, and that's kind of what inspired me to do a deeper dive into the disease. To figure out if you have it, endoscopic tests are done, colonoscopies can be done. If you look to the right, there's an image of what a colonoscopy looks like. So they send a wire with a camera attached to it up the large intestine, and they can get a visual of where the inflammation is occurring. They can take a sample while they're up there and do a biopsy to really clarify and see if that is the disease and that's what's going on. They also test for things like Salmonella, E. coli, and tuberculosis because those have been associated with irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel disease. So if you look to the left of this image, there is a healthy mucosa and one that is functioning regularly. You can see there's a high diversity of commensal bacteria. Enterobacteriae is down, which is a bad bacteria to have in your gut. And if you look at the dysbiosis on the right side with chronic inflammation. There's overactivity of T cells. There's not a very diverse group of commensal bacteria. And one thing that scientists are still questioning is the dysbiosis in the gut and the decrease in commensal bacteria caused by the inflammatory process, or is it the thing that's driving it? It's kind of like this chicken and the egg, and we still don't really know the source or its pathogenesis. Some key players that are involved in the overinflammation process are the dendritic cells, IL-23, the cytokine IL-1 beta cytokine, and T cells, which secrete them and notify other cells around to attack. So this is going to be a breakdown of how it starts dysfunctioning. So if you guide your eye up to the top right of the center image, you'll see blue dendritic cells. At the surface, these are antigen presenting cells, so they have the bacteria, or what is supposed to be like they have the commensal bacteria on them and are showing it as something that is bad, and they're going into the lymph node in the gut and presenting it to other cells, like the Th0 helper cell that also has S1P1 receptors on it. And the helper cells are then taking that information, that antigen, going out of the lymph node via a S1P gradient, which basically the S1P1 receptors are binding to that ligand, and the gradient is swooping it down to the submucosal layer where blood vessels are, and you can see there's a lining of inflamed epithelial cells in this blood vessel, and the T helper cell brings its signal, and right before it gets to the area of inflammation, it exits the blood vessel, and so that it can keep going in the cell trafficking, and other leukocytes there are signaled to then attack. And this leukocyte specifically has the alpha-4 beta-7 on it, and it binds to the MAdCAM-1, activating that pathway, which then causes the inflammation. Under normal circumstances, if it was bringing good, or if it was bringing like actually harmful and damaging pathogens and bacteria to the area, then it would be fine. But since it's bringing our healthier commensals, that's what's causing the inflammation and not allowing for us to get better. So one treatment actually is available that activates or targets this pathway. It's vedolizumab, which is a medicine. It's a fully humanized monoclonal Ig1 antibody, and it selectively inhibits the binding of the alpha-4 beta-7 integrin to the MAdCAM-1 molecule. And this is cool because scientists were trying to figure out the best way to fight the disease, whether they target specific cytokines or like actually target the cell trafficking process itself, so that the cells aren't being trafficked and brought to that area as much. So this is what that drug targets. And as you can see in the image, the vedolizumab binds to the alpha-4 beta-7 and doesn't allow it to bind to the MAdCAM-1, which it limits inflammation, and it's a very low symptomatic drug. So it's been on the up and up, and people are using it. So other things you can do that aren't medical are just avoiding gluten and alcohol, things that can irritate the gut and the liver. This will help prevent gut inflammation flare-ups, and also doing low regular impact exercise. These are just some good habits and things to keep in mind in order to prevent flare-ups. I know my grandpa, if he eats something with gluten or eats something specific to him that his body doesn't process well, it causes really bad flare-ups. So it's good to be mindful of those things. And that's some sources. So, and yeah, these are all my citations. I put them on each slide, but this is just them summarized. And all the images I used have citations as well. And that is basically it. That is the disease, and thank you for watching my video.